Throughout history, cultures around the world have told tales of terrifying and awe-inspiring creatures, monsters that lurk in the shadows, guard sacred places, or challenge the bravest of heroes. From the fire-breathing dragons of Europe to the shape-shifting yoki of Japan, these mythical beasts embody the fears, beliefs, and imaginations of their people. This series will explore some of the most legendary monsters of mythology, uncovering their origins, powers, and the stories that keep them alive to this day. Welcome to Myth and Lores, a journey into the dark and divine. Without further ado, let's jump into another lore. Centaurs, creatures with a human's upper body and a horse's lower body, have been a part of mythology for millennia. While they are often depicted as noble or tragic figures in various mythologies, particularly in Greek myth, there is a darker, more mysterious side to their lore, especially in earlier, pre-classical accounts and certain regional traditions. Here are some of the more ominous and eerie aspects of Centaur mythology. Violence in wilderness. Centaurs are frequently portrayed as embodying the untamed forces of nature. In many ancient myths, they are seen as wild, unruly, and prone to fits of rage, embodying the animalistic instincts of the horse combined with the intellect of humanity. This duality often leads to violence, particularly when their primal side overtakes their reason. The Battle of the Lapiths and Centaurs. One of the most famous violent episodes involving centaurs comes from the Greek myth of the Battle of Lapiths and Centaurs. At the wedding of Perithous and Hippodamia, the centaurs, who were guests, became drunk and attempted to abduct the bride and other women. This savagery sparked a bloody battle between the Centaurs and the Lapiths, a tribe of warriors. The Centaurs' uncontrollable nature led to a devastating fight where they were ultimately defeated. This story reflects the dark side of the Centaur myth, where their wild, untamed nature leads them to terrible violence, and they are ultimately shown as a threat to civilization and order. The Centaur, Chiron, a tragic figure. Though not inherently evil, Chiron, the most famous and noble of the Centaurs, stands apart in his character, and his story is filled with profound tragedy. Unlike other centaurs, Chiron was known for his wisdom, kindness, and healing abilities. However, this tale is not without dark elements. Chiron was accidentally wounded by an arrow poisoned with the blood of a hydra, which caused him immense and unending pain. He could not die as an immortal, but was cursed to suffer eternally. Unable to end his life, he sought a way to end his suffering, but his immortality prevented it. Ultimately, he traded his immortality with Prometheus, who Zeus had punished, and Chiron died, passing into legend as a symbol of sacrifice, wisdom, and the inevitability of suffering. The idea of an immortal being trapped in endless torment, unable to escape his fate, adds a somber and tragic layer to Centaur mythology. The centaur as a symbol of disorder. In many mythological traditions, centaurs symbolize chaos and a rejection of civilization. Their existence, half human, half animal, makes them a liminal, unstable figure not fully belonging to either world. This often reflects fears of the untamed wilderness and the dangers beyond the boundaries of an ordered society. In this sense, centaurs were seen as metaphors for the forces of anarchy and barbarism that could potentially overwhelm civilization. For example, In later interpretations of mythology, centaurs were sometimes viewed as representing the darker, more violent instincts within human nature itself. While the human part of their body could reason, the horse-like part represented raw, unbridled aggression. The resulting tension could lead to tragic outcomes, where these creatures could either threaten society or be driven into isolation. Some ancient texts and myths associate centaurs with the underworld and the darker aspects of nature. In some versions of the myth, they are said to dwell on the fringes of civilization or in areas considered cursed like the wild, dark forest or caves that exist outside the bounds of human settlement. Their violent tendencies and semi-bestial nature gave them an association with the forces of death and destruction. In certain traditions, centaurs were said to be the offspring of Ixion, a mortal king who attempted to seduce Hera, the queen of the gods. Zeus punished Ixion and cast him into the underworld, and his children, the centaurs, were often portrayed as outcast. The idea that they were born from a punishment tied to the realms of the dead further links them to darker aspects of the world, reinforcing their symbolic ties to disorder and destruction. Centaurs also took on a darker, more malevolent role in later European folklore. In some medieval and Renaissance tales, centaurs were transformed into wild, monstrous creatures that preyed upon travelers or lived in desolate, dangerous regions. These tales were often influenced by the increasingly Christian worldview, where centaurs were seen as a hybrid creature, imperfect, monstrous, caught between heaven and earth, embodying the idea of sin and corruption. In addition to their association with violence and chaos, centaurs were also sometimes linked with the darker forces of the natural world. As half-horse beings, they represented untamed landscapes, forests, mountains, and wilderness areas that could be both beautiful and perilous. In these areas, travelers could quickly lose their way, and mythological figures like the centaur embodied the idea that the wilds were not to be trusted. They could be seen as protectors of these wild spaces, but they were also capable of exacting terrifying retribution on those who dared to enter or defile them. The darker lore of centaurs is rich and complex, reflecting the tensions between civilization and the untamed forces of nature. While some centaurs, like Chiron, embody wisdom and nobility, the more common portrayal is of wild, violent beings at the edges of society, symbolizing the dangers of excess, barbarism, and chaos. In myth, they often warn that the boundary between order and disorder is thin, and those who stray too far into the wilds, literally or metaphorically, can quickly find themselves caught in a maelstrom of destructive force. That concludes this lore. If you like what you heard, please like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next lore. Bye.